So as I mentioned, we are going to look at task 5. Hopefully you can see that all right. And we're going to, and it's a written question. I say it's 16 marks, you get 1.5 minutes per mark. So it should take us about 24 minutes or so, unless we get sidetracked. So again, remember, it is based on a scenario. Don't need to learn the scenario, it'll be given to you in the exam. But typically what we find with these types of questions is learning the scenario is not a skill, because the vast majority of the questions are not based on what you were given in the scenario in the pre-release. It was based on something that happens in the exam. And to avoid any confusion, the scenario that will be in your exam is down to instruments. Some of the AAT sample assessments are not based on this, which I won't go into, but your exam will be based on down-to instruments. So we've got a scenario, in the question. I tend not to read that, because you're going to read it and then you're going to read the requirement for the question, and then you go back looking for the answer for the question. So I like to do it both at once. So the first thing we've been asked to do is identify. So identify is literally just give me. I don't want any explanations, I don't want any descriptives or anything like that. Just give me whatever the question is. So we've asked for one strength within the systems. Now, before we go any further, I want to clarify what we're looking for in a SWOT. So SWOT analysis is like that. Well, it's not like that. You don't have to have it in a 2x2 matrix, but these two here, we want something internal. Something within the business, a good strength within the business, a weakness within the business. Whereas these two, the opportunities and threats, should be external to the business. I should have said S&W stand for strength and weaknesses. So we're looking to identify one strength within the system outlined above. And these are written. So if you come up with a different strength within the system, I mean, here it's quite a short scenario, but you might get quite a few you can pick up. And as long as it's sensible and internal, they're going to give you the mark for the strength. So here we've got customers can view their full catalogue of products online, along with all the technical specifications. The website integrates with the company's inventory records, so it's able to show the customer whether the items are inventory or not. I'm not going to lie, there's a strength in there. Anyone want to suggest what it is? Like I say, as long as it is justifiable, we've got to give you marks. Yeah, Paul, totally agree with you. The fact that the website is integrated with the inventory records. Exactly. So we've got this, identify one strength in the system outlined above. And that's all we're going to do is identify that the website is, give my pen time to go up, integrated with the stock. Make it a bit shorter. And that's it. Don't want any more of that. That's a strength. What I would say is be specific like this. I marked a professional synoptic the other day, which I don't like doing, but it's my job. And it was a SWOT analysis, and the principle is still the same. And there's something about what's a good strength, and someone said the credit control procedures are good. Don't do that. Good means nothing. We want something specific. So here, the website is integrated with the stock. But that's all we mean. We've identified a strength. The next bit is explain how the strength benefits the organization. Now, you have to be careful here. Obviously, it's explain. We want a bit more than just identify. But the other bit we need to be careful with, what we're looking for is the benefit for the organization. We want to take it to the point at which the organization benefits. So if we were to say something along the lines of, this makes it really handy for customers, it does, but you've not gone to the full nth degree. You need to say, what is the benefit for the company? So in terms of how this works, is it makes sure my pen chance to catch up. Goods. I mean, you can come up with a different explanation. There are other ones. Yeah. So there's two actually there. Paul's done a good one, and Sarah's done a good one. Make sure goods are in stock before they are ordered. Pen's so slow. That isn't good enough. We need to take it further. So there's two things we can do here. I'm going to split it up. We're only looking for one. We're not looking for loads of different benefits. Just explain how it benefits the business. So we can split this off into polls where this makes sure we don't disappoint customers. And I'm running out of space here. Anyway, that leads into repeat business. That's one, and that'd be enough for an explain the benefit. The other one you could do is it stops them running out and then having to do things like refunds, because someone's bought something, paid for it, and we don't have it. So refunds, which would cost to process, and obviously by not doing that, it saves us money. And then you could go down the same thing. It doesn't. Yeah, the same thing. That's what we're looking for. I mean, we don't need both of these explanations. You just need one really good benefit to the organization. Happy customers is great, but it's not a benefit to the organization. If someone buys something off you, is happy and never comes back, never tells anyone else what a great experience they had with you, there is no benefit to you. The benefit to the business is if they come back again, or they start telling other people what a great experience they have, and then they buy from you. So just make sure we are answering the question. I think I said it the other night. Forgive me if I did say it the other night. I've slept since then. I'm working 3 nights a week nowadays, teaching business awareness twice a week and INAC tonight. But there was one question of, what's the issue for the company here? And the credit controller was overworked. And a student's answer was, oh, the issue is the credit controller is overworked and might be stressed, which if you're the credit controller, sucks to be you, but that's not the issue for the company. The issue for the company is if that person is stressed and starts making mistakes that starts costing money and not chasing up debts, the debts go bad and loses money, that's the issue for the company. So always make sure you're answering the question and you're looking at the subject for the question, which is normally the company, not the employees or the customers in some cases. So always take it to the nth degree. Cool. So that's strength. You can see where we're going to go with this. Let's look at a weakness. Oh, well, we know what the question is. To save scrolling down and then scrolling back up, the next question is identify a weakness. So can anyone identify a weakness in these systems? Yeah, the website can't gather marketing data. We'll go with that. Like that one? I'll go with that. So the website can't gather marketing data. Again, it is identify. So we just want to say, don't say the website's rubbish. I mean, it is, but don't say that. We need to know what is the specific problem. And remember the name of the system, internal controls. So what in the accounting systems and controls is broken or could be better? So the website can't track marketing data. That's it. So it is a specific thing. It is an internal weakness, and that's what it is. So now we've been asked to describe. So again, we want a bigger answer. The potential damage this weakness could cause the organization. So it is the organization. And then a potential remedy. Now, in terms of laying out your answer, and I would go with, make it very clear, this is the potential damage it could cause. Stop. End of sentence. Next line. This is a potential remedy, to make it very clear which is which. And the marker, although I don't think they do use pens, but could run down and go, yep, and yep. So, yeah, I mean, there's lots of the ones we could go with as well, but we've only been asked for one. So the potential damage for the organization is, say, for example, they can't track marketing data. So say, for example, you spend lots of money on Google Ads, and you can't tell if that money that you spend on Google Ads leads to people going to your website and buying goods. So potentially, I mean, this is just one example. It's one I've been, that's an FI thing. I won't go into that. Potentially spending money on advertising which doesn't work. This is unnecessary expense, or wasted expense, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Unnecessary, I'm sure that's not how you spell necessary expense. Cool. Unnecessary expense. So that's the potential damage. Now, the damage is the unnecessary expense that they're potentially wasting some money on advertising. There are other things you could have said about it not tracking marketing data. It could be, I don't know, people are spending lots of money thinking you're getting loads of sales, but actually they're buying cheap products and it's cost you a fortune to sell cheap products because you don't know what they're buying. Or they're not buying. Anything, as long as it's sensible, is fine. The next bit is a potential remedy. Now, it's not rocket science, this one, but we'd like to make it a good answer. Employ a digital marketing agent to, now I wouldn't say fix, because that's a bit generic, to make the website track, so now in there, marketing data. Later. Cool. There are other things you could suggest. I mean, there is other weaknesses in there as well. But you see here now we've got one point here, which is the potential damage to the organization. The potential damage is not we can't track customer data. That is the cause of the damage. It is not the damage. The damage is wasting money on advertising. Well, no, that is one potential damage. There are others. And then the second point is employ someone to fix it, really. So we need someone to make the website to be able to track marketing data. And then you can see if you're wasting money or not. And then you can check which campaigns work and which ones don't. Really that. Cool. So the next one is opportunity. So we're going to go back up there. So what opportunities could we implement? Remember, opportunities are external. These sometimes are not in the scenario. Anyone? Yeah. So opportunities, things that the company could do outside of the business. Yeah, cheaper couriers, outsource shipping is. We'll go with that one, Sarah. We'll go with that one. That's a good one. But the main thing is it is external to the business. And outsource shipping. And how the system should be changed to benefit the organisation. So rather than us standing the cost of shipping, an external company would do that. So we don't ship anything internationally, we just give our goods and someone else picks it up. Yeah. AAT's model have answers improving internal processes. That, I don't like that. That is turning, in my opinion, a weakness into a strength. I remember on PDSY, one of the chief examiner's reports was students do not, focus on strengths and weaknesses being internal, opportunities and threats being external. So yeah, there is a bit of a grey area, and to be honest, our model answer here for threat, I think is a bit iffy, which we'll talk about, but we'll come up with another one. I haven't thought of one yet, but we'll come up with one. Externally, the company would do the shipping. So that would benefit the organization, and it would benefit by reducing the risk, losing money on shipping. So for anyone, well, none of you will have done business awareness, but if you were to have done business awareness, we're talking there about how we reduce risk. And in this point here, we're passing the risk onto the external shipping company. So that's the opportunity. And then last one, before we move on to pestle, we're going to look at threats. What threats? Anyone come up with any threats? Remember, these are external things to the company that could damage the company. And I'm with you on this one. Whenever you see overseas, exchange rate is always a threat. Anyone for anything else? Now, without going all economics on you, you could argue that what you don't want to do is say, oh, exchange rates. If your people are paying in sterling, you get paid whatever. So you haven't got that issue as if you're buying goods from overseas and suddenly it's more expensive. But the issue is, if you've just invested a lot of systems to move to ship internationally, and suddenly the pound is really, really strong. I know, crazy suggestions at the moment, but just say the pound is really strong, you suddenly have really expensive and no one will buy from you overseas, and you just invest loads of money. So there's that as well. It's not just what it costs to get you. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the scenario to suggest so, Sarah, but if you can justify it, new businesses to market are an external threat. Harder to credit check. Yeah, I'm torn between that. I'm not going to say it's definitely an internal weakness. I can see how you can argue it's external as well. That one, Matthew. There's quite a few. Like our model answer is all about this, which, in my opinion, I think is that's version on the internal. I don't like that. Yeah, tax legislation, political change, you know, suddenly there is a big tax on gas instruments. Remember, that's what we're selling. You know, you could argue with, well, the way the world is nowadays, some countries that perhaps produce a lot of gas, we're not allowed to ship to anymore. You know, that sort of thing. There's lots of things you can say. What should we go with? We'll go with Anne's because she was first. We'll go with exchange rate. You know, but when you see overseas, there are loads you can come up with, and as long as you're justifiable. So we'll go with exchange rate. So what does threat could damage your organization? So as I said before, if the exchange rate changes and the pound gets really strong, we suddenly, put it in proper sentences. If the pound becomes strong, we are expensive and might not sell anything. Now we've been asked for an action that could improve the risk. So what would we do here? Now, obviously, we can't change the exchange rate. But what we do to reduce the risk of this damaging the business? Lower the price of the products, that would work. Anything else? What about if we just literally had an overseas office or factory? I don't quite know how it works, but you know, we've got overseas office. So if the material, the goods are produced overseas, they're sold overseas, and it's paid overseas, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, depending on how it works, insist on being paid in sterling. That would reduce any risk, and things like that. There's lots when you come to, as soon as you're overseas in currency, there's lots you could do. So if you completely took out anything to do with the UK, so you had a UK office that dealt with the UK customers, you had a, I don't know, one in the euro that dealt with everyone in the euro thing, we wouldn't have those issues with exchange rates, because if the euro got really strong, it wouldn't affect the company in the EU. And likewise, if the pound got really strong, you know, it wouldn't affect them because we wouldn't have money transferring from one to another. It's just one suggestion. There are many, many suggestions that would also work as well. So this is why it is human marked, because as long as you justify it and explain it, they've got to give you the marks. But just remember, get it to work, the strengths and weaknesses should be internal, and the opportunities and threats should be external. Now, there are those that we've seen that are a bit iffy. And if you're not sure whether it's definitely internal or definitely external, if you can come up with something else, come up with something else. Don't take the risk of the examiner thinking that's more of a weakness rather than a threat, kind of thing. So, but if you haven't got another point, put it down, because if you don't put anything down, I know what mark you're going to get. So that's the gist of a SWOT. If you do get a SWOT, I have no idea what it's going to be about. There'll be some scenario that no one could predict it, but as long as you explain your points and you make sure that, you know, the strengths and weaknesses are things that inside the company that is either making the company do well or are a risk to the company, and your opportunities and threats are things external to the company. And if it does ask for recommendations, you want to be turning weaknesses into strengths and threats into opportunities, if possible. So that's SWOT. Now we're going to look at pestle. Now, this one is a relatively straightforward pestle question. We've got to apply the point to, or the aspect of pestle to the issue. Now, when I looked at one of the AAT sample assessments, one of their task 5 questions was, you've got a scenario, write, what is an issue for, I don't know, the P, the E, and the S, which is given here. And you've got to say from the scenario, what is a political issue, what's an economic issue, and what's a social issue. And you've got to write and explain that. Then the question says, what are the 3 remaining aspects of pestle? And you had to just explain that it was technological, legal, and environmental. So it can be a written task. It can be a drop down like this. But the main thing is you've got to know the 6 aspects of pestle. This is going to be really, really examinable. I would think it's going to be all there. Cool. Anyway, so we go through here. What do we think the first one is? And don't repeat the full word, but is it a P, an E, an S, a T, an L, or an E? This first one. Yeah, it is technological. We'll just go with a T. Next one, is it best to sell our products exclusively in pounds, or should we offer the option to buy in foreign currency, which I think was Paul's suggestion? Yeah, so that is economic. Next one, do our products comply with safety regulations in place in other countries? Yeah, a legal one. Next one's a bit of a gray. Could the products be shipped directly from our supplier to our customer to reduce our carbon footprint? Yeah, environmental. And we're running out of options here. Are there any trading restrictions or import duties that we'll need to be aware of in other countries? Yeah. Legal. And then the last one, do our staff need any training on cultural issues to be aware of when dealing with customers overseas? Social. Yeah. That one there, actually, I would say, is if we had actually for our SWOT, would be a really good threat. Sorry, why put there? We're missing a P. Which one? Trading restrictions. We've already got legal. That would be political as well. I mean, you could argue that one for both, but we'll go political because we haven't got a P. Cool. But that would be also a nice threat. Cool. And that is pestle and that is SWOT. As far as we're aware, you're going to get, that's all you're going to get in this question, SWOT and pestle. It's going to be really, really examinable. Like I say, pestle might not always be like this. It could well be a written question, but it's the same principles, and it will be explain an economical factor, a legal factor from a scenario given to you. I would think it's unlikely you're going to get explain for all 6 aspects of pestle because it was just too much. The one I've seen is 3 explains and 3 identifies. Cool. Any questions on SWOT or pestle before I let you go? We've got a little bit more. Who knew? Last little bit. So think about adding a chat box to the website. We've actually got one on ours. It's not a big feature to answer the questions such as where's my order? I hate them. Without need for human interaction. Customers will still be able to sign the contract sales staff if they prefer or need more complex answers. Which of the 3 following would be a concern when implementing a automated chat box? Now, I remember it would be a concern of the organization. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 3 marks and we've been told there is 3. Yeah, reaction customers. Like I say, I hate those things. Definitely give that. Anything else? Accuracy of responses. Yes, The Amazon one is really annoying. Really annoying. We want one more. Four. Yes, I would go with 4 because obviously, hopefully, well, if it's any good, it will work, unless people will need to speak to the sales staff, so they potentially could lose their jobs. Let's talk about the ones that we haven't chose. So ethical implications. Do we think there's any ethical implications to this? Well, the answer is no, because we haven't ticked it. But no, it's not. There's nothing to do with you know, the environment. You know, think about the triple bottom line. It's not affecting any of them. It's not affecting our 5 fundamental principles. So it's not really relevant. Staff training, not really. I mean, once, like you say, Sarah, once it's up and running, you know, it's automated. Staff shouldn't need to use it. So that's not particularly relevant. And then the last bit, changeover method. You know, it's not replacing anything. It's just an additional feature. So it's either you use it or you don't. So it shouldn't really be, like I say, it should be a direct change. It shouldn't be an issue. So that wouldn't be too much of a thing either. But yeah, with these ones, if you've got to choose 3, don't choose 4, because you'll start losing a lot of marks. And remember, there is no negative marking in AAT. So if you know there's 2 and you know 2 are not, you've effectively got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And you may as well not. Whereas if you leave it blank, you will definitely not get a mark. Cool. And that's task 5. That is it. There isn't 6 tasks in INAC. Is there a session next week? There is a session next week. I'm sure you can't see my other screen. And let me just check my diary. If it's me doing it, we will be going back to task 1 next week, because we've gone through all of them. No, it's not me. It's someone else. Top tips for the exam. I'll be honest with you, we haven't had loads of people sit there, so I haven't got loads of feedback. Other than, so it's got to be relatively generic. You SWOT and pestle, make sure they are as they want. Manage your time. It's still a level 4 written exam. You know, there's always this danger of thinking, if I write another point, I'll get another mark. And sometimes you won't because you've got all the marks, or sometimes you won't because you started writing rubbish and you're absolutely tired. So make sure you are careful with that. What else have we got? Let's have a look at the previous ones whilst we're here. So we get paid for another 24 minutes. What do we got here? Yeah, weaknesses. Yeah, make sure you really explain what the weakness is and the impact, and make sure it's the impact on whoever it's asked. So this point is asking for the impact on you, so give it the impact on you, not the impact on customers if that's not relevant. What else have we got? Yeah, these ones here, you shouldn't be getting these wrong, I'll be honest. Just make sure application controls are specific to a certain program, whereas general controls are like a password on a computer that affects several programs. And then yeah, the only one is here, I think is a good point, is where's the pen gone? Where's the pen gone? Is actually put yourself in the scenario and try and follow the transactions through the systems and think, would this actually detect it or would it not? So you've got to think. So for example, I think in this question here, what was the fraud? Yeah, she's been paying herself overtime or something like that. A wages control account. Think, what do we do with a wage control account? We debit the expense, we credit the net pay liability, we credit the NI, we credit the pension, and we credit the tax, which is great, but that wouldn't identify the fraud because the fraud is in the running of the payroll. So just try and, in your mind, go through the transaction, think, what are we doing? And would that flag any fraud or error? With that, any other points we've got here? Yes. Here, misappropriation of funds and misstatement. There's going to be both of these, and make sure, misappropriation of funds obviously will lead to misstatement, but don't go down that route. Go down the route of it will lose the company money, whereas the misstatement is the financial statements are wrong. And as a general rule, think about the direction that things will be misstated. So, for example, if you're a company, generally you would want to understate your liabilities because you'll say, I don't owe it as much as you normally do. Whereas with assets, you generally overstate them. So you want to be looking for where they have, for example, trade receivables have not been checked for bad debts. There are items in the fixed asset register that probably have been stolen, destroyed, depreciated too much. Or on the other side of it, have we got all our invoices in before the year end? Have we got trade creditors missing? So think about the direction of misstatement. And then task one, and I looked at this thinking, my word, this is relatively straightforward. Machine learning and AI. I'm literally an expert on this because I taught it last night. So machine learning is a part of AI. Machine learning is where a program uses past data and makes predictions as to it makes predictions how it should be used in the future without being programmed. If it's programmed, that is automation. Whereas machine learning is taking past transactions and past behavior. An example of this would be, I did my dad's VAT for his farm, which is due again this month, and a bill came in from Yorkshire Water. Zero sat there and, I don't know. Then I coded that to water. And then Zero's machine learning kicked in and said, next quarter, you've got a bill from Yorkshire Water. Is that water? And already coded it to water. Now, there isn't a rule within Zero that says Yorkshire Water will always be water, because you just think how many different suppliers there are. And so it used machine learning to think, look at past transactions and then go, that's what we think it's going to be. Whereas AI is quite a broad general term, and it's a computer that can make decisions like a human. But the problem is it's quite a general term. So that's like one end is like sentient robots that know they're alive and have feelings, which is a bit extreme. And the other half is a little bit better than machine learning. And the thing is, it changes so quickly. The definition of AI and technology moves on. And so, yeah, literally the Terminator, we could be Zero, could be not far off becoming the Terminator. But, so it's quite open-ended is AI, but AI is more about, because we're not going to test in AI because it's incredibly complicated. But with AI, the only thing AAT are going to do is to take it a little bit further than machine learning is AI can be used to make decisions. You don't need to know how it makes decisions because very few people do, but it makes decisions. Whereas machine learning isn't making decisions as human would do. So, like AI would perhaps look at a bill from Yorkshire Water and go, and it would know water and start coding it to water, for example. Whereas machine learning has to have the prior transaction to do it. So that's the difference between AI and machine learning. So I spent ages going over that last night. But that's it, really. Right. Have we had any fails yet? No, because we've only had a couple of people sit it, and you've got to wait 6 weeks for results. So none have come through as yet. And will we get marks for answering things not in my scheme? Yeah, Sarah. Like the mark scheme is quite prescriptive or so it's got to be, you've got to give this, that, or the other. And if you don't, within the marking scheme, you will not get the marks. This is so all the markers are marking fairly. However, the mark scheme can never contain every possible answer that you could come up with. So the mark scheme will be very strict in terms of marks. So if it says identify a weakness and explain how this can be improved, it'll be as strict as have they identified a weakness, 1 mark. And that'll be, I mean, it could be any weakness as long as it's, you know, there. It doesn't have to be in their model answers, but it'll be very strict in it's worth 1 mark. If you go into explain why it's a weakness, and you know, and the cause of it, everything, it's great, but the marks are very strict. It will literally be 1 mark for identifying it, and anything you brought over and above that is wasted. Then it'll be explain how this can be improved. There might be 2 marks available for that. And so if you explain how it can be improved, you'll get 2 marks. What they can't do is take 2 marks, you know, take one of the marks from the explain bit and go, oh, they explain the identify bit, so I'll give them a mark there. They cannot move it around. It's very strict. It's 1 mark for, I don't know, part A, 2 marks for part B. And if you write a massive essay for part A, you still only get 1 mark. There can't be, oh, I'll give them an extra mark because I'm nice and it was a good answer. Can't do that. But if you do any mock exam and your answer is not in the model answers, do not assume that it's wrong. And this has been like in the AAT written exams for decades, really. Don't assume it's wrong, which is, you know, why if you've got a tutor, send some written stuff in for marking, because it's good to get a you know, second opinion, because it's very easy. Well, you get two types of students. One goes, oh no, it'll be fine, it's not in the model answers, but I'll give yourself marks. Whereas, you know, you want some second opinion of thinking, that's more of a threat than a weakness, or vice versa, and be a bit more critical, as opposed to some students who go tick tick, I'll give myself full marks. And those who go, oh, it's not the same as model answer, no marks, which is not how it works either. Yeah, if you're not in the sample assessments, in the written stuff, don't assume it's wrong. In the automatic mark stuff, it's not there, it's definitely wrong. That's definitely wrong. But in the written stuff, do not assume. And that is why we have human markers. We haven't got AI markers as yet. Cool. Anyone for anything else? Remember, we will be back here next week, but I won't be. I don't know what I'm off tomorrow next week. But someone else will be starting, we'll be doing this, and we'll be starting back with task 1. Cool. Good luck for those sitting next week or the week after. Remember, we've got revision sentence model answers. Yes, when you signed up, you should have got. Oh yeah, I'll send it out again. I'll rather go down that route. I'll make sure to send it again. Cool. Right, last chance before I go. Anyone for anything else? If not, I'm glad to find it useful. Remember, we've got revision sessions. If anyone's got any other units like AMAC statements and all that, we were doing revision sessions on them as well. Cool. If not, have a good evening, and I won't see you next week. Someone will, but I'm back the week after, I think. Cool. Right. Good night, everyone.